Hello. Action to crack down on violent criminal gangs roaming the countryside during the reign of Edward I resulted in a large number of arrests and put the legal system under pressure. War with France had led to air courts, which we covered in our last video, being temporarily suspended in the 1290s, adding to the problem. To deal with the backlog in the courts, special itinerant royal commissions were set up. They became known unofficially as Trailbaston sessions, after the cudgels called bastions, typically carried by members of criminal gangs, and for which Trailbaston was prescribed as a new offence for the Commission to investigate and adjudicate on. 5 judicial circuits were established covering England and Wales, and justices appointed to tackle what the writs described as the harm being done by felons and disturbers of the peace who committed crimes and then took refuge in woods, parks and other diverse places. The first hearings began on the 1st of April 1305. A jail at Lichfield in Staffordshire, most probably in the Market Square, was repaired at the expense of Bishop Walter Langton, who also doubled as Lord Chancellor and Lord Treasurer, in readiness for the arrival of the Trailbaston judges in the town. The commissions were renewed with additional powers in February 1307. They continued to be used regularly throughout the reigns of Edward II and Edward III. Around 300 individuals in Staffordshire, one of the smaller English counties by population, were jailed by the Trailbaston courts. What might sound like a good idea in the face of an undoubted general breakdown in law and order proved unpopular in practice. Sceptics saw it as little more than a revenue-raising ruse by the Crown. The hearings, designed to deal with large numbers of cases quickly, were open to miscarriages of justice. False accusations were made by those with a grudge. In this era of forest law, anyone handy with bow and arrow who had annoyed a neighbour was likely to be accused of poaching the king's deer. An untitled, anonymous, 100-line ballad, penned at the time by an author who says he was seized with the desire to rhyme and make a story about an ordinance which is provided in the land, was highly critical of the process. It's become known as the Outlaw's Tale or the Song of Trailbaston. Composed in Norman French, the poem concerns the commissions of 1305 and 1307, specifically a circuit covering Cornwall, Devon, Dorset, Wiltshire, Somerset, Herefordshire, Worcestershire, Shropshire and Staffordshire. It purports to have been written in the Vert Bois, or greenwood, named as the Forest of Belregard, a refuge where there is no annoyance but only the wild animal and the beautiful shade, and then left on the highway for a passing traveller to find. It tells of the joys of the forest where there is no deceit nor any bad law, and where the jay flies and the nightingale sings daily without ceasing. Such joys are repeatedly emphasised as an encouragement for others to join him in this idyll. Even, he says, if you know your letters and are tonsured. The inference is monks who could claim benefit of clergy to avoid being tried before the Trailbaston justices and plead their cause in the church court instead, are counselled not to put their trust in that system either, because you may be sent back to prison in the bishop's care. He advises better to settle with me in the woods. Friar took anyone? He is living in the forest, he says, because people of evil disposition have indicted me out of their dishonest mouths for wicked robberies and other offences, so that I dare not be received among my friends. If I were in their power, he alleges, I would be put to death. There's almost a hint of an admission of guilt in the line, I was never a killer, which he then qualifies by adding, of my own will anyway, but perhaps he's been a soldier. He tells us, I have served my lord and king in peace and war in Flanders, Scotland and Gascony, but he doesn't say in what capacity. Possibly our balladeer is a knight or squire, although the legal terminology he uses suggests an intimate knowledge of the law, and his literacy suggests a clerk. 4 of the 5 justices serving on the commission covering the West Country and West Midlands are named in the poem: William Martin, William de Neuville, Henry Spigonell and Roger Beaufort or Belfago. The 5th member may have been John de Batesford. Martin and Neuville are credited as being men of piety and pray for the poor that they may have safety. Spigonell and Beaufort are described as cruel men, sunt gent de cruelté, and that he would break their backs and their backsides with their arms and their legs. Some people, the writer suggests, too afraid of a wrongful conviction to appear before the Trailbaston justices, will become thieves who were never such before, pushed into outlawry and a life of law-breaking by default, resorting to crime in order to live. What I find interesting about this commentary on a relatively obscure episode in our legislative history are the Robin Hood and Sherwood Forest resonances, with its many lyrical allusions to the good life in an idyllic greenwood, decades before the first explicit reference to the legend in 1377 in William Langland's poem Piers Plowman, although popular ballads and stories are likely to have been circulating long before. Despite all our writer says about life in the forest, he wishes a curse on whoever calls me to be in this place, and he wants out. I beg all good people that they will pray for me, that I can go and ride to my country. Private hunting reserves were medieval England's ultimate status symbols, from the Norman period governed by forest law, and forest law will be my subject next time. If you've enjoyed this video, hit the like and subscribe buttons and click on the notification bell to be informed when the next video is available, or you can subscribe by clicking on the rose window over my shoulder.